tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know I'm here too. Joining me as always, Xavier Guerrero, and on the ones and two, Jay Nice, Juicy John, Johnny Woodard, everybody.
Hey now.
Yeah, well, very excited. Want to start off by saying, once again, as always, St. Louis, Indianapolis, you never disappoint. Bow, bow, bow. It was great. Thank you guys for coming out to the show. We love you very much. Looking forward to being back there again. Guys, real quick, if you want to see me live, see Xavier live, or Eddie Bravo live, just go to SamTripoli.com and check them out. I have Bellflower coming up on the 10th. I have the Comedy Store on the 14th, already putting that show together. And then Austin on the 17th and Plano, Texas on the 19th. Grab your tickets now. Eddie Bravo, Xavier Guerrero, myself, live. So go grab that, go check that out. And again, go to the chaostwins.com to promote my to check out and help us. We're putting together a comic book, a conspiracy comic book for children. It's called The Chaos Twins, episode number 1. Depending on the funding is how much we'll create. If we get enough funding, we're going to do an animation. So just want to put that out there. Love to have you be part of the Chaos Army. So go to chaostwins.com or samtripoli.com. So let's get into it. Very excited to have this attorney on. I'm a big fan of her work. Please welcome Leigh Dundas. How are you? Let's get into it. Let's welcome Leigh Dundas.
Drink from the fountain of
All right, let's get into it. She is a civil rights attorney. She's been doing some amazing stuff. And towards the end of the 2020 election, I was following her and I have all the breakdown she was doing. And I found it very exciting. So I'm very honored to have her on the show. Please welcome attorney Leigh Dundas. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. It's great to join you guys here today. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for slumming on our show. We really do appreciate it. We're very excited to have you on. I did follow you towards the end. I loved your breakdown of everything that was going down and the craziness that was 2020 and the blatant rejection of law I saw happening and still happening as we speak. So I'm very excited to have you on. Before we get into it, can you just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and where they can find you?
Sure. And thanks again for the opportunity. So I am a human rights attorney. I thought I was going to grow up and be a dolphin trainer, but the best laid plans of mice and men. I started college when I was 14 and I had been assured in 8th grade in my career education class that we had plenty of time to worry about what majors we were going to be in college. But then, as luck would have it, I fell into college. So technically, I'm a high school dropout with a college degree, and I had to pick a major. And I picked sociology, but I didn't realize at the time that they were actually making less in LA than like the poverty line was. So, and SeaWorld wasn't hiring. So dolphin training was sort of out of the running and being a sociologist was out of the running. And my mother, God bless her, was like, you have quite a mouth on you. Have you ever thought of law school? I really think you'd be a good lawyer. So off I went to law school. I applied everywhere. I applied to U of Hawaii and U of Colorado because I was like, well, I don't know if Harvard and Yale are going to want some 17-year-old, coming up in their grill. They might just reject me out of hand, but they actually did not. Yale let me in. Everywhere else let me in. So I went to law school at the ripe old age of, I think, 18-ish. Got out a few years later, passed the state bar, started working for a big old law firm here in California, representing big old clients, corporations. And it was, super exciting. Not really. It was kind of boring. Very hard work. Like they worked us like dogs, but it was good training. And then, in 2013, I think it was, I was asked to become general counsel to an anti-sex slavery nonprofit and move part-time to Southeast Asia and start running undercover, like former Navy SEAL type guys, SWAT type guys into the child brothels, pretending to be like pedophiles with their little, their cap that had like, a little recorder device in it, or their wristwatch that was actually like a recording device. And we ran these special forces guys who were retired and working for the nonprofit I worked with. We ran them into the child brothels. They amassed evidence of who the bad guys were that were selling 7-year-olds to sex buyers and the pedophiles who were buying them. And then we went to work getting the bad guys busted and getting the girls out and getting them help. So that's what I was doing from 2013 on. Congressman Ed Royce, who was the head of the House Foreign Affairs Committee back at that time, decided he wanted to sort of crack down on human trafficking. He started a congressional committee that was designed to stiffen penalties on the sellers and buyers of kids. And I was blessed enough to be tapped by Congressman Royce to sit on that committee. And we worked hard stateside and abroad in places like Thailand and Malaysia and, places like that, Cambodia, to really get right side up on the sex trafficking industry, which is a huge industry. And that's what I was busy doing, and happily enough, right up until, crazy came to town in end of 2020, early 2021, with all the lockdowns and the election that didn't exactly go the way it should have. And I found myself constitutionally incapable of shutting my frickin' mouth. So off I went with my little bullhorn screaming at blue state governors and, rhino Republicans in name only who were on our board of supervisors and wanting to do things like throw us into the Warsaw Ghetto. If we weren't vaccinated, we were going to have to, show a passport to, I don't know, buy groceries, go to the theater, go to the frickin' park. And I just thought that was kind of a bad plan. So I started screaming about it. And here I am, an infamous human rights attorney. So that's the short version of my resume.
And do you have a website, social media you'd like them to go check out?
Yeah, so my new personal website is Leigh Dundas. It's spelled with extra letters. My mom gave me extra letters in my name, so it's LEIGHDUNDAS, LeighDundas.com. I can see you guys are flashing it up on the screen now. And it's got, a link to my new book, which is called Just Stand Up, My Fight for Freedom from the Brothels of Asia to the Streets of America. So, it's got the link to the book. I urge you to buy the book. All of us podcaster, book author, speaker types, we used to have real jobs that paid the bills, but not so much these days. So this is one of the ways you can support people like your host, people like me who are being interviewed by your host is to actually buy their books, click on the advertisements, support them. So yeah, LeighDundas.com. And then there's an events and videos page. So if you really like my, 2-minute screaming sessions at the governor or the school board, all the links to all that jazz is up on the videos page of the website. And my nonprofit, I have a nonprofit that tries to support the work I do as well. That is freedomfighternation.org. Again, that's freedomfighternation.org. And you can go there, you can make a donation, you can learn about all the initiatives I've been forwarding in the last few years. I was sort of one of the major architects of the U.S. convoy, the People's Convoy, consulted on the Canadian convoy. We did the nationwide walkout that basically, put a little kink in the supply chain and convinced the courts to get off their duff and actually start ruling against Joe Biden's, illegal vaccine mandate. So all that good stuff, all that's on my nonprofit website, freedomfighternation.org, or you can find me again at LeighDundas.com. And that's the long and short of where you can find me. I don't know how to do social media. I'm a total Luddite. So I am on Facebook. It's Leigh Dundas. There's two of us. There's a dude who's a chef in Australia. So if you type in Leigh Dundas to Facebook and there's a freaking dude with a Y chromosome talking about cooking, rest assured that is not my account because I can't cook. And, I have girls, not boys. So anyway, and I actually know what gender I am, unlike a lot of people nowadays. So Leigh Dundas on Facebook. I am on Instagram. I am on Twitter, but I have volunteers who post there. I don't know how to do it myself. I don't even know what my handles are. But I have a new podcast this week. I'm going to be joining the ranks of the people in front of you. I'm going to start my new podcast. It's going to be called Freedom and Fire. If you want to sign up to get alerts on it, you can go to leighdundas.com. There's a podcast page, and when I start pumping out interviews, you'll be able to see them there.
Well, I look forward to seeing what you do with that. You're very entertaining. Like I said, I watched all your videos before. There's a lot to get into. One thing I want to ask you is where you are and what you've seen. You know, I believe, you know, I'm reading the Bible now. I'm getting into Christianity. I love Christ, all that stuff. And I really do love that. But there's things before, you know, when I was getting into spirituality, some people might call the woo woo and all that. And, you know, one thing was that there's both light and dark. And so when you work into these things, and particularly I want to talk about like your thoughts on the U.S. legal system. Is there light still in there, or are we straight up banana republic courts and stuff like that?
Well, you know, the U.S. is a pretty huge, you know, we basically got our own continent if you subtract a little bit of Mexico and Canada. Very large country, unlike, say, Liechtenstein, right? So you've got all the states, you've got counties within the states. You know, I live in California. We have, I don't know, 58 counties, I think, in our state. So you can't really just sort of lump all the courts together. What I will say is in blue states like mine and in blue counties, I think the court system is often a lost cause, at least as it relates to things that matter. You know, the freedom fight, letting your kids go to school without muzzling them and wearing fake clothing on their face by way of a mandate that's unconstitutional. A lot of the judges early on, I'm talking in 2020, were changing their party affiliation that I knew here in Cali from Republican to basically anything but Democrat, Independent, anything but Republican. And that really does not bode well. If you think, oh, I'm going to bring a lockdown lawsuit in front of this guy, or a mask case, or a vaccine case, like, really, if that guy is so scared of his flippin' shadow that he won't even stick to his party that he announced when he was 18 years old, 3 decades later, he's changing his tune because he's scared. You know, that's not a guy who's probably going to do right by your lawsuit. That's not a guy who's going to stick his head up above the hedgerow and say, I'm going to do the right thing here. And judges are, generally speaking, a notoriously cowardly bunch. They sit on the bench in their black robes with their gavels and their monster-sized desks and the well, which is 6 to 10 feet in front of their desk, and all these trappings, because they don't really want to be a part of real life. A lot of them, not all of them. I mean, there's, you know, this is a generality, but these are not the trailblazers. If they were, they would not be content to sit behind all these trappings every day and rule on boring lawsuits in many cases. So you've got a problem because judges are not really activists. You don't want them to be activists. You want them to apply the law, not make law. That's what they're supposed to do. So people self-select into that profession that are introverted, you know, creatures of habit, not super brave. These are not Navy SEAL mentality guys or even entrepreneurial sorts, right? And that's the rubric of what makes up this personality type that gravitates into being a judge. And then you combine that with a cultural climate, which has got, you know, Fauci at the helm saying, hey, you know, this is a virus that kills people, even though it's not. Right. And, you know, if you're the first judge to rule on a lawsuit and you go your own way and you go against the accepted norms, which says COVID is dangerous and we need to be, you know, staying home and wearing 5 muzzles on our face, and you say, that's a bunch of bull, I'm going to apply the law, this is unconstitutional, your kid should be able to go to school without a mask on his face or a vaccine in his arm, and you're the first judge to do that, you may very well in this climate find yourself, you know, with the crazy totalitarian power elite going, oh my God, little Johnny, 7 years old, died because he got COVID from going to school in an unmasked environment because this judge who, you know, went out on a limb ruled the wrong way. And now you've got a judge who did the right thing, but he's got blood on his hands, or at least that's the way the media is spinning it, because he did the right thing and now he's ground zero of some sort of, you know, major Ebola type outbreak that is killing little babies, right? Or at least that's the way the media is spinning it. So you've got a perfect storm of variables between the personality of the judge, a blue county, a blue state where the politics are already not in your corner, combined with the fact that maybe you've got a free thinking judge, but he's looking at this and going, If I'm the first guy to rule this way and little Johnny dies on my watch because I said he could go to school without a mask, I'm never going to get reelected and be a judge next year. And I don't want to be that guy. So you had a bunch of judges that were sitting on the fence. Now, is it lost? Are we doomed to be a banana republic for the rest of our lives? No. So what we did, and sorry, this is a long answer and I'll shut up shortly here, but what we did in November of 21, I had a bunch of transportation workers calling me and saying, Union Pacific Railroad was one of them, and they said, "Hey, we're 73% unvaccinated, and they're going to force us out of work." And I'm like, "Really? Oh yeah, they're going to fire us unless we bow down, bend over, and get the vaccine, and we don't want to." They're talking about free thinkers. These are blue collar guys who are used to giving the bird to people they don't agree with. And I said, "Well, golly, 73% unvaccinated? How much track do you guys own?" And they go, "Oh, hell, man, we own everything from Chicago all the way down to New Orleans, all the way to Malibu on your side. We're a duopoly with BNSF. BNSF owns the Eastern Seaboard. We got everything west of the Mississippi." I'm like, "Damn, bro, like really?" They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Huh. Well, so what happens?" And they were talking about just, maybe catching the flu because, they're not allowed to go on strike, but they're also not supposed to operate large equipment if they're sick, because that's a danger to society. If your conductor's under the weather and he jumps his freight train off the track, right, and drives it onto the 10 freeway during rush hour. So, they were feeling a little, a little under the weather. And I said, "Well, what happens if you guys are sick and you're not there for a day?" And they said it creates a 1 month backlog on the supply chain. I said, "Really? A 1 day strike or a 1 day sickness creates a 1 month backlog?" He goes, "Yeah, because of the ripple out effect." And I'm like, "Dang." And I said, "Well, what's your wait time on that? Like 2 to 3 weeks before it hits the supply chain?" And they go, "Yeah, about that." I go, "Well, you didn't hear it from me, but you heard it from Fauci on the news last night. He said this Fauci flu that's coming down the pike this season is going to be a real bad one. People are going to be laid up for a week or two. My best guess is it's going to be hitting California the second week in November, which, go figure, that's about 2.5 weeks before Black Friday, boys." And they said, "Yeah, we're already feeling a little poorly."
Yeah.
So then, because those guys, their railroad, they couldn't strike. If they went on strike, it had to be an unauthorized strike. So they didn't go on strike, but they did catch the flu, as I understood it later. But the other industries that I was working with, telecom, Verizon, Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed, JPL, nuclear, aerospace, doctors, lawyers, teachers, court workers, newscasters, all these people have been itching to do a strike for a year. And I said, "You guys got to quit operating in silos and doing 1 day strikes in one little profession. Y'all need to do it at the same damn time." And I've heard that the Fauci flu is going to be real bad that second week in November. So we did what we called a nationwide walkout, November 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. And if you remember back to 2021, we had not had a single judge, not a single court case that had been ruled in our favor, freedom fighters' favor, on the vaccine mandates. But we went on strike Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We shut down the Golden Gate Bridge accidentally with a parade that we did up there. LA had a parade that Monday. We did one Thursday. Chicago, New York. Bridges were shutting down. We were getting all sorts of publicity. And wouldn't you know it, Friday night, midnight, Louisiana, a panel of 3 judges on a federal circuit court down there ruled for the very first time against Biden's vaccine mandate. Why? Well, legend has it their wives were understanding they weren't going to have a stitch of toilet paper to wipe their heinies with by Christmas, because the supply chain was about to take a major header, because you had transport workers who were pretty darn sick that first part of November, and it was having a real bad effect on the supply chain. So what I like to say is, courts of law aren't entirely broken, but you need to understand courts of law follow courts of public opinion. Little black kids should have been going to school with little white kids forever, but they didn't get integrated until Martin Luther King Jr. had been doing his stuff for a damn long time down in Bama and Arkansas and all those places. And after years and years and years of getting society ready to rumble, then and only then did we get the courts to get in the game and actually say, hey, little Johnny who's black can go to school with little Mary who's white. So courts will eventually get their ass off the fence and get in the game. But first, you kind of got to force them into a corner. And the way you do that is by making the judges understand it's going to be a worse day in America for them to continue to be scared of their own shadow than it is if they play ball. So then they go, well, I guess it's time to play ball because otherwise we're not going to have a supply chain, or we're going to have riots in the streets, or, whatever it might be. So it's peaceful. You don't have to go rioting. You can do what Martin Luther King Jr. did and Gandhi did. You can have a peaceful sit-in or a peaceful sit-out. And that's what happened that second week in November. And golly, 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 suddenly we had things going our way.
I respect that, and I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I love that, and that's what we need, more of that, and people not afraid to take chances and learn how to manipulate the system like that. Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our friend James McMahon and Copy My Crypto. Let me tell you about Copy My Crypto. We've seen so many people making ridiculous money from crypto. But did you know you could do the same? The Copy My Crypto membership site shows you the coins that YouTuber James McMahon personally holds and allows you to copy them. It's like having a big brother who knows what he's doing. You don't need to know a thing about crypto or how to invest, as you simply do what he does. So let me tell you more about James. He runs Crypto with James YouTube channel, which despite heavy censorship has over 26,000 subscribers. Since March 2020, he's told his viewers to buy 26 crypto coins. Had you put $100 in each of those coins, it went up to be worth $123,000. Of the 26 coins, his top pick of the year, a coin called Phantom, went up 692 times from when he said. That one call alone retired a number of people, including guys in their 20s and 30s. Remember, this is public knowledge. You can go to YouTube and verify this yourself. So if you'd like to join the 2,800 members who copied James, then stop what you're doing and head right over to copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's TFH. You'll not only find proof of everything I said, but my listeners get full access for just $1. Once again, that's copymycrypto.com/TFH. The recession is here, guys. You can suffer like everyone else or choose to thrive. James is the real deal. Go visit the site now. So a lot, I learned about you through the breaking down of the election that was coming up. Everybody was talking about, they're going to rig this thing. Lo and behold, I personally believe it was rigged. Not everybody on this show does believe that. Some people don't believe it.
Wait, are you talking about me? Because I was the one that said before the election that it was going to. Remember, you lost a lot of money to me because I said they were going to rig it and Biden was going to win. Did you forget that whole thing?
You felt there was a lot of Biden voters.
You've forgotten completely who said before the election that they were going to rig it in favor of Biden.
All right. I take it back. But, because when I look at like Joe Biden and just from his many failed attempts at running for president, him being called this, and that, corrupt, blah, blah, blah. He's from the state of Delaware. There's like 4 people that live there. And for some reason, they just kept voting for him in. But there was never a swell anywhere to make me think that 81 million people thought that Joe Biden won that thing legit. We've seen 2 times from what I've been told, that where suddenly voting stopped, the counting stopped. And then when they picked it up again, there was a giant swing the other way for the votes.
A question. So we talk about it being rigged. Do we all understand that it was rigged through Twitter, right? And Facebook, like we all understand that it got stolen right there. The mail thing, I don't know about the mail thing, and that's when I think Johnny's like a lot of people are like, I don't know about the mail thing, but you can't say Twitter not talking about Hunter being a crackhead that didn't affect it.
Yeah, the laptop.
That is definitely stolen.
I would agree with that, but okay. I do believe that the voting and the balloting and all that stuff, and so you were breaking down a lot of the stuff, the executive orders that Trump was putting into place. What are your whole thoughts on all that, the election and all that stuff?
I believe in math. 2 and 2 is 4. It's always 4. It's never going to be 5.
Racist. No, go on.
Right? Yeah, that makes me a white girl racist out here in Cali these days. But it's just I'm not a mental freaking Einstein or giant on math, but I forget what the odds are. I haven't looked at the numbers, but you just don't have those few handful of counties going the way they went, with the math the way it was. And when you ran the stats on it, it was something like a 1 in a quadrillion chance of some of these counties going the way they did. And it's never happened before, and it's never happened since. Yet a guy who never left his basement, right? Never campaigned anywhere. I mean, I know Democrat attorneys who were working on his campaign, and when they said, "Hey boys, what's the plan for the campaign?" They're like, "Oh, there is no plan. We're just going to have Biden in his basement." And they were full of integrity type Democrats, and they literally left the campaign because they knew that meant, probably bad things were in order, like not lawful things were in order. And they weren't down with playing ball with people who were going to play ball that way. So there was that. I talked to a lot of the Wisconsin folks in the middle of this, right after things happened. And I forget what the numbers were there, but they had 92,000 nursing home people or something in their state. Don't quote me on the math. And they went out and they started interviewing these guys in nursing homes who had cast their vote for Biden. And one for one, something like 97%. These were guys who had been quadriplegic on a vent for 32 years. And they went up to the family and they're like, "Yo, did Joe Blow vote for Biden?" And the wife was like, "Are you freaking kidding me? He's been on a vent since 1982, since before you were born, dude. And he hasn't voted for any. The last person he voted for was Reagan, And again, you go out there, you do these audits, and you find out that 90+% of the nursing home people in that state that allegedly voted for Biden did not actually vote at all, according to them or their person who had their power of attorney. And just that number alone swung that state. It's separate and apart from dropping, 2,000 mules, dropping ballots at locations in the middle of the night that had multiple ballots and all that BS, and suitcases coming out from tables in Georgia and, the old fashioned stuff. But yeah, I mean, when you look at, I forget, I think it was Charlie Kirk about a month ago, he was interviewing a media market guy, older guy, I forget the guy's name. And he said, we've gone through the numbers and we've interviewed Democrats, and something like 70 or 90% of them had no idea the Hunter Biden laptop story was real, because social media, to your co-host's point, were suppressing the shit out of the story, right? And calling it fake news and the Russian, all that jazz. So, there's all this black PR on President Trump. The actual truth, which is very bad news for Biden, was not getting out. The false data about Trump was getting out. And both of those combined started to skew the voters. So all of us Republicans, when you poll the Republicans, we're like, "Oh yeah, we knew before the vote that Hunter was smoking crack and having sex with 5-year-olds. Of course we knew that, And most of us knew that, but most of the Democrats didn't. And when you ask them that, they go, "No, I didn't know. And if I had known, I never would have voted for Biden." And that goes back to that one executive order that Trump wrote. I forget what the number is on it, that I had done a whole thing about, which talked about the fact that if the media, there were all these different people who could sway an election, but if the media suppressed things or didn't let things out that were shown to actually make a pivotal difference in an election, they could be held accountable for the bad election results. And what happened to that executive order and why it was never applied more thoroughly when we had the data, I don't know. I mean, I think what really occurred is there was so much evidence of, just BS going on, but to try to run it down quickly before the swearing in, it was just overwhelming. I mean, it was just overwhelming, and we were pretty much unprepared because we're the honest people who don't rig elections. And so we just didn't have our ducks in a row to timely and quickly tabulate all the many different ways from, people routinely dumping, the same cell phone mules, dumping hundreds of thousands of ballots at these unmanned boxes, which were against Wisconsin state law. And the Supreme Court later said they were against state law, but yet we counted them anyway. Pennsylvania, you're not allowed to have your registrar of voters or your governor say, "Oh, I'm going to change the rules leading up to an election." No, the Constitution is very freaking clear. Only the legislature can make or break new rules about elections. And yet you had all the people in Pennsylvania going, we're just going to continue counting past the voting day. And for a week, we're just going to continue counting votes. And all of us Republicans were just unable to get our arms around the massive different facets of the Rubik's Cube in terms of the way that there could have been cheating and actually prove it up in a timely manner in front of courts who are biased and bought off and cowardly and bribed. And you put all that in the margarita shaker and you get a very bad taste in your mouth. Or in this case, Biden in office.
There's so much going on with that. So you're a Republican from California, which is, I think there's way more of them than people want to admit and people are afraid to come out. One of the things that I found very shocking was how poorly the Republican candidate for governor ran a campaign in California. Now, I'm not sure if you were associated with him in any way or work with him in any way, but what's that?
Which Republican candidate on our recall?
For governor that ran against Gavin Newsom during the thing. And because I would go to anybody, normal people, even like politically savvy people. Yeah. I would be like, can you name me the candidate that is running for Republican governor? And nobody. You probably could be the only person because you're in that world that could name me who ran for governor under the Republican Party against Gavin Newsom after he got recalled. Do you remember?
It really, Dolly, maybe. I was more familiar with the list of candidates that were putting their names in the hat for the recall that happened this time last year, or 2 years ago now. Time flies. Anyway, the problem with all of this is we got to get rid of Dominion. People are on record as saying, we know we have a backdoor in. One of their guys was like, and he used the F-bomb. He was like, oh, you don't need to worry about this election. I'm going to fucking make sure we win. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And I don't have the quotes handy because I was living and breathing this stuff 2 years ago. And now I've, moved on to other stuff. But it's well known. Sitel, Smartmatic, Dominion are basically CIA tools that we use in actual banana republics to overthrow their government and make the elections go the way we want to, because they have wide open back doors that you can jury rig as much as you want. So we could overwhelmingly vote Republican for our president, which I believe we did, for our governor, which I have no doubt we did in the recall, because every Democrat I knew was done with Newsom by the time that recall came around. And it doesn't really matter, Sam, because we have 47 of 58 counties here who had Dominion. So you can have 100% Republican vote, but if they can go in with a keyboard stroke and change it up, there you go. So I had been asked to run in the recall runoff against Newsom, and I think I would have stood a great chance. But when I looked at the math, I'm like, oh man, we got 47 counties with Dominion machines in. Talk about pissing in a hurricane. Like, why bother? You're not even going to feel it. You're going to not notice that. So I just bowed out. I'm like, I got better things to do than run a rigged race. Like, I'll run a race any day of the week and twice on Sunday if it's a level playing field, because I know who I am and I'll freaking win most of the time. But not when it's rigged. You could be the best prize fighter in the world, and if you walk in with all your limbs taped to the mat, a 5-year-old could beat your ass. So that's, functionally speaking, what we're facing right now in California, in the U.S. Now, is there hope? Yeah, Shasta County, which is a red county way in the north part of California by Mount Shasta, a couple months ago, they got rid of Dominion in their county, which is great. It's a start. And we need to do that across the board. I know a lot of states are cleaning up their voting now. A lot of counties are cleaning up their voting. But it's really a race to the finish here, because we need to get it done before the next election, or we're just going to, garbage in, garbage out. We're going to have more of the same.
So we see that these giants. So every presidential election, the Democrats start with two states up for the most part. They start with New York and California. That may change, but that's for the most part what they start with, right? And so I was just on Joe Rogan's show and on his podcast, and I was just talking about how I believe the next thing is immigration riots in these Democratic cities, because if they can't lose New York City, they can't lose Chicago, they can't lose Philadelphia. They can't lose Los Angeles because those are the ones that give them those states. So if they actually have people showing up and voting in person with IDs, they're going to get annihilated. So they have to cause the chaos to cause it so people want mail in. Do you see that? And that might be a loaded, if we had a judge here, I'd be like, you're leading the witness, but like, do you see that as a concern?
Yeah, I do. And I mean, they're already rioting. I got somebody throwing me a Twitter link on a group text I'm on that, not in the context of straight up immigration, but the whole Israel-Palestine stuff that's going on right now. And, I think it was in Brentwood like 2 days ago on the corner of Barrington, and I forget what the cross street was, but, Beverly Hills basically. And you've got, people in Mercedes who are, having radical Islamic, whatever you want to call it, coming up to their passenger window with their 7-year-old in the car. And these people are threatening to behead their 7-year-old. And they're like just trying to go to the bank or, go about their day. Right. And it doesn't take a lot of that. I mean, I'm a ballsy chick, but I'm also a mom. I got my kid in the car. She's 19 now. She'd get out and rumble. That girl's more cut than most guys I know. She got my husband's guns. Like, she came home for the weekend. She's like, she's been working out with weights because she's on a D1 sports team. She's like, check out my guns, and I'm like,
that's
girl,
great.
like you're awesome. Thank God she's got a girly physique. Otherwise, I'd be scared and she'd be looking like a tranny. But she's 19 now. And God bless her. And if shit gets real, like, she'll throw down because she's equipped to do it. But 10 years ago, if I'm taking her to her horse lesson or volleyball practice, am I going to be continuing to go out in the street with her in the car if people are threatening to behead her and we're trapped in traffic in a freaking riot? No, I'm a mom. I'm gonna leave her at home, and that is the name of the game, is to make the streets of America so hostile that good people everywhere are afraid to go out, or if they do go out, they're only going out for necessities and they're staying home and voting by mail. And meanwhile, you've got immigrants who can be coming up from all these other countries coming over our southern border. And the irony is most of the people coming over our border these days aren't from Mexico or even South America.
Yeah.
China and the Mideast, and like, that ain't scary. Okay, why are Middle Eastern men who are fighting age coming over our southern border? Like, that makes zero sense unless you realize, what the larger game here is, which is, I think, where we're headed. I mean, when Beverly Hills is rocking and rolling over the weekend, this last weekend with the Israeli conflict and the streets heating up there, and it doesn't really matter. It can be a race riot, it can be immigration, it can be Israel and the Mideast. Just call it what you will. If you've got Soros's people who are paid and bust in to go make it unsafe in your neighborhood, things get really real really quickly, and you have an election that is more easily thrown.
Do you think we're in a Bolshevik revolution right now?
Oh, I think we're in a second Holocaust. I mean, and I called it from April of 22, like a couple of weeks into this. I stood on the west steps of the Sacramento Capitol and I said, I think we're on a bullet train to Auschwitz if we don't self-correct. And even the people who were out there, which was very few people at that time, because I was a bit ahead of the curve, were kind of like, all right, Leigh, that was a little over the top, a little hyperbolic there. And I'm like, maybe, I hope I'm effing wrong, but I'm not usually wrong. I mean, I spent 10 years working in third world countries that are communist countries, fighting against the brothel industry. Well, who runs the brothels? The freaking mafia, the Yakuza mafia, the people you don't want to come up against because they'll knife your kid, cut their head off, rape them after they're dead, and videotape it so that you make damn sure that you don't make whatever mistake you did the first time. Like, these are not people to like trifle with lightly, right? So there I am in third world countries that are having coups d'etats while I'm there. We're working in Islamic jihadi territory. Frick, the first time I was there was literally 10 years ago to the day. I was working in a brothel town on the back end of Thailand, right up against the Malaysia border, where if you spit hard, you can hit Malaysia. And on the Malay side of the border are radical Islamic jihadi terror training camps. And the first year I worked there, we had 330 freaking bombs go off. And that's what it looked like. So, I'm not gun shy, but most people are. I'm also not a white woman who's been practicing law for 30 years in Orange County, California. I am part that, And I am hey, I spent the last 10 years rolling with Navy SEALs in places like that are communist controlled, where radical jihadis are blowing us up for sport to keep their bombing skills sharp for a day like today in the Mideast. 330 bombs, that's a bomb a day going off, right? And yet you go into these regions and you're supposed to get something done. You're supposed to get the girls who are being raped 10 times a night for profit out of the brothel, and you're supposed to get the bad guys put away. How the hell are you going to do that when the mafia who's running the brothel are controlling the cops and the prosecutors? First damn day I was there, I'm literally making friends with the girl you can see behind me, right? Her face is blurred out. She's a sex slave caught in the brothels there. We're sitting on a bench outside the brothel, and I see two cops get out of a cop car, walk in front of us. They're like, oh, sawadee ka, sawadee krap, Thai greeting. Oh, good night to be out. Oh, yeah. They're in uniform. They came up in a Chevy Blazer that was a cop car. They get out. They go into the brothel. They're in there for a half hour. They walk out. At this point, I suddenly notice one of the guys has a little sack that's hanging down by his thigh that's a little puffier. A couple of minutes goes by. He makes his way to the next brothel. They're boom, boom, boom in a row. It looks like if you've ever been in East LA with the roll up metal grates on the front ends of the body shops, that's what they are. They roll them up. Then there's glass windows. It's a karaoke bar in the back is where you go to get your girl servicing you. But it's a burger joint, karaoke joint in the front. But they have these little metal gates. And so they're only about, yay wide, right? So they go into one brothel, they come out. They go into the next one, they come out. And every freaking time they come out of the brothel, the sack is a little bit bigger. And I look at the pastor who's there with me, who took me to this brothel town. He's our in-country liaison point. And I look at him and I'm like, he goes, you want me to explain? I'm like, hell yeah. And he goes, think in 1940s New York City protection fees. The cops are run by the mafia. They're working for the mafia right now. They go in, they extort money from the brothel to turn a blind eye and leave them in business. And I go, oh, and let me guess, every half hour, every 2 hours when they're in there for 30 minutes instead of 2 minutes is because they're raping the girls for free and getting a freebie while they're in there, not just taking the money. And he goes, yeah. So when you think about it like that, here I am fighting $150 billion a year industry. It's the second largest crime in the world, fastest growing. It's going to take over drugs inside the next 10 years for the top criminal economy, because there's more profit to be had in selling a 7-year-old to a sex buyer than there is in selling cocaine to your buddy, right? So biggest industry in the world. And guess who's not there to help you? The effing government. You think that cop is going to bust the brothel? He's working as a bouncer for the brothel, or he's extorting the brothel owner for money for his boss, who's a dirty cop up the food chain and working for the mafia when he's on the force. And yet you're still there and you're supposed to get something done. So all this shit breaks loose in March of 2020. And I'm looking around and I don't have my little, goggles on for a first world lawyer. I looked at this and I'm like, I'm not filing a lawsuit. People are like, why aren't you filing lawsuits? You're a lawyer. I'm like, because we ain't living in America. We're living in a communist fucking country right now, pardon my French. And the only way to get shit done is not with legislation and lawsuits. Those are first world toolkits. They work in a democracy, in a first world country. We're not living in a first world country. You got a runaway, super blue majority legislature. You got an executive branch in the form of Governor Newsom and your governor in New York who thinks he's king and making executive orders like he is king. And you got the courts who are scared of their shadow, and they're supposed to be the brakes and checks and balances on the system. You think you have a prayer of winning this by playing like, oh, I'm a little nice white girl. I'm going to go to the state capitol. I'm going to lobby my legislature. I'm going to pay my lawyer to file a lawsuit. You're freaking high. You want to get shit done. You need to play it like I play it when I'm working in a communist country. So everybody's like, hey, how come you aren't doing what CHD and Perk and American Frontline Doctor and Simone Gold are doing? I'm like, because I told them all, from Bobby to Simone to every single one of them, you can file those lawsuits. I'll help you file them in a red state. You might win, but I don't think you will. And you for sure won't win if you're in a freaking blue county like LA and in a blue state of California. But let me tell you something. I think you're going to have a 99% loss. And 3 years later, guess what we're running in California? A 99% loss. And I love Bobby, and I love a lot of these people. But they are going to continue to get their ass kicked and waste their donor money if they are filing lawsuits when the judges are brought off and bribed. If they want to win the war, they need to start doing things differently, like we do in Asian countries. And that is what I've been doing. That is why you saw me do a convoy. The reason I did the convoy is because I was on the ground in 2014 when the coup d'etat came to Thailand. You know why they have a coup d'etat every 10 years for the last 100? Because they lost the right to vote. So yeah, we do need to get our right to vote back, because otherwise you're going to end up rumbling in the street. That is the only way to get the vote back if we don't frickin' fix this scene over the next couple months here. But yeah, so I walk out into a frickin' coup d'etat. The people are in the street by the millions. Okay, that's what it actually means like to fight for your freedom. You can't see daylight between these people. And the green hats in the middle, that's the military. And all the people around them are surrounding the military. And so for a month, this goes on, right? The streets are on fire. They're setting tanks on fire. The military's squaring off with the people. It's 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. And one day, the farmers go, screw that. We're going to take our big old farm equipment. We're gonna hump and jump our way over the countryside, and we are gonna encircle Bangkok International Airport. And they did it. And I watched this go down, sitting there like a little white lawyer from California with an 8-year-old. I had an 8-year-old at the time. And I was just a little soccer mom trying to learn the ropes of fighting the brothel industry. And I walked out of my hotel, and I watched them encircle the airport. And I watched that country and the balance of power in that country change on a mother freaking dime. Because you don't do jack without your supply chain. And so we like to think as Americans that we don't have tanks to our name, but we do. They're called trucks, and they are called Caterpillar earth moving equipment. Your farmers and your truckers are your tanker unit when you're not in the U.S. Army and you're just Joe Blow civilian. And so in 2019, I want to do a convoy, and people thought I was crazy. But timing is everything. And when 2021 rolled around and all the Canadian truckers were ready to rumble, they're like, we want to do a convoy. We've never done this before. And they were suddenly calling up Leigh Dundas because Leigh Dundas had seen it done in Thailand. I'm like, this is the move. This will bring this country right. And we did it in Canada, and we did it here. And within frickin' 48 hours, I think, of announcing we were going to do a convoy, we knew Joe Biden was running scared. We had it on good authority from people in his administration that the thing he most feared was an Occupy Ottawa in DC. And so as soon as we announced, we weren't even out of Dodge yet. We hadn't even left the West Coast yet. He was like, oh, that hard cutoff for the vaccine mandate with the corporations, that was misconstrued. That's really a soft cutoff. We're going to work with people. He was already walking it back. And then he called up your governor, my governor, New Mexico, Hawaii. We're
from California, by the way.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were in New York because you mentioned New York earlier. Well, hey, here we are together in the Pacific time zone. And if you remember that week, it was February 2022. All the blue states opened Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. A new state was opening every single day. And everybody was like, oh, that's amazing. And then we did the convoy, and they're like, why are you doing the convoy? The blue states are open. I'm like, yeah, but they wouldn't have been if we hadn't have done the convoy. He leaned on the blue states because he wanted to make our convoy look like a moot issue. But if we never did it, we would have still been locked down right now. So yeah, grassroots shit, that's the way to do it. And that is what I've been doing for the last 3 years.
Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our friends at Mood and their new THCA flower. Let me tell you about Mood. Mood is known for their federally legal THC, but now they're adding their most potent product yet to their lineup. Introducing hemp-based THCA flower, the future of legal THC. Try along with all Mood's other amazing offering like Delta 8 flower, gummies, vape cartridges, and more. And for a limited time, Mood is giving our listeners a free gram of THCA flower and 20% off your first order. Just visit HelloMood.com and use the code TINFOIL. That's HelloMood.com and use the code TINFOIL. Hey, Xavier, you've tried Mood. Tell us about your thoughts on Mood.
Yeah, my favorite thing are the THC rocks. Those go perfect in a bowl. And then if you're trying to roll up a joint, I'd go with some orange glaze. It's perfect. And they have pre-rolls as well, so you can't go wrong with anything on that website.
So, if Xavier likes it, we all are going to love it. That's right. So we want you to try Mood's new THCA flower today. And for 20% off your first order and a free gram of THCA flower, go to HelloMood.com and use the promo code TINFOIL. That's HelloMood.com, promo code TINFOIL for 20% off your order and a free gram of THC flower. Enjoy it. Do you think, because there are people within the truther community that believes that this stuff moved too quickly for the New World Order and they had to show their hand. And like their whole thing was a slow roll to 2030 agenda. And, you know, the vaccine passports and all this stuff. And that, you know, I mean, I have a friend of mine, Eddie Bravo, who believes that Trump rolled out the vaccine quicker, so it kind of screwed their timelines up. I don't know what your thoughts on that is, but do you have any thoughts? Like, did they try to do too much too quickly that kind of blew up in their face?
I do think they did, and I think they made the mistake that most megalomaniacal totalitarian overlords always make. I mean, if you look at Hitler, that was his downfall. He started fighting fires on too many fronts, and he got very narcissistic, and he got high on meth too. They were giving him meth, and there were some Parkinsonian tremors, so his brain was clearly not in its fittest form in the later days. But they always think that they're gonna win, and they get emboldened by their early successes, and they bite off more than they can chew. And that was Hitler's downfall, and it was pretty much every other totalitarian ruler's downfall. And I do think that we see that playing out now. People started waking up, and the vaccine, for better or worse, because it's killing so many people and injuring the ones who aren't dead yet, is also really waking up a lot of the folks who were asleep. So, and then you've got people like Newsom, you know, our governor, now that I know you're here in Cali with me, but, you know, he should have never left the schools shut down for as long as he did. Because when he kept the kids, and I have one child, and she is a dream. This is a kid that she never, ever, ever came out of her room after I put her down for the night. Not one time. Ever. She's 19. She never came out and said, Mama, I need a glass of water, or there's a monster in my closet, or I can't fall asleep because I watched too many scary movies before bedtime, or I'm so excited we're going to Disneyland tomorrow that I'm awake at 3 a.m. instead of 6 a.m. This is a kid who, when I put her to bed, stayed in her room. I never asked her to do homework. She got straight A's her whole life. And everybody's like, hey, what's your secret with the kid? I'm like, I quit while I was ahead and didn't have number 2. Because if I had the second kid, they'd be swinging from my chandelier and breaking everything in my house. Like, I don't know what God did to reward me for some past karma or something, but I got an angel who is not like me. And that's why we quit having kids after 1, because we weren't going to mess it up by having a second child who was the spawn of the devil. But where was I going with that? Anyway, I love my kid.
Well, we were talking about overreaching.
I picked up the train of thought. Thank you for helping me. So I love my kid, but she was out of school from, March of 2020 through the end of that year. And she was ready to die, and I was ready to die. And we get along great, and she is a dream child. And even that child couldn't hang being in solitary confinement in her room, plugged into a computer, 10 hours a day. And most children, and she was in high school by that point. But yeah, 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, they can't. And a lot of people have more than one kid. And a lot of lower income people in Compton have, no dad in the house. The mother's working 3 jobs. Little Johnny, who's 10 years old, is taking care of his 3 younger siblings. They don't have a stable internet connection. And they're not in their little online classroom. It ain't working at all for them. And every parent I know, regardless of who they voted for, was over it. They were like, I want my kid to go to the prom. I want them to have a homecoming. And God love my child, but I want them back in school and out of my hair. And when he left, the schools closed down. And a lot of the blue states did this, but Newsom did it the hardest and the longest. And that was Newsom's mistake. When he left the schools closed down for as long as he did, even the Democrats, I had Democrat mommies who do nothing but get their brows waxed, get Botox injections, and spend the rest of the day at the tennis courts here in Orange County. They are not my people. I don't have a thing in common with them. They spend thousands of dollars on their purses at Saks Fifth Avenue. They were calling me when school went back in session in fall of 21, and they're like, we know you're doing like in the street protesting. Tell us what to do. And I'm like, you're upset? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, why? Well, our kids are supposed to be back in school and they're not. I'm like, oh, and you want to do a protest? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, you want to go to SAC and do it in front of Newsom's house, or you want to do it like in front of the local high school? They're like, we don't care. We're ready to rock and roll. And these are women with, like 8-carat diamonds on their fingers. And I'm like, wow, These mommies are the people who never leave the country club, and they're willing to go sit under a tarp in front of Newsom's residence. That was my first clue Newsom had overstepped. That, and when I had 3 Democrats who were old Native American Democrat double boosted Pfizer people at an Applebee's in Gallup, New Mexico at the beginning of the convoy go, "Hey, are you with the truckers?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and they won't serve us because the restaurant's about to close down. And they're like, "Come on over, you could share our chicken wings, and God bless you. Here's a couple $100. You put that in the boys' tanks. We're Democrats, we're double vaxxed. We don't really believe what you believe, but we believe in freedom, and we're over this." And I'm like, wow, we're going to win this war, because the average American is wanting to get back to business as usual, which is, we're a free country. We don't care how you voted. We don't care that you're different than we are, but we believe in your right to choose differently. And we believe everybody's created equal. And that is going to be our little tyrant's downfall, is the good people are 80% or more of this world. And the good people are freaking tired of this shit. So yeah, they overstepped.
So, I don't know how, I'm been starting to read the Bible, getting Christian. I've always believed in the battle between light and dark. And even before I started, because, the show started as a conspiracy show. And then I always say conspiracies lead to spirituality. And then you start, if they're lying to me about this, what else are they lying to me? And then you end up finding that they're lying to you about God. And I start to study all the stuff that these people do, this Marxism, when we study BLM and what BLM was like, we want to destroy the family unit, all this stuff, dark arts. And, when I see that you talk about like battling child sex trafficking, which I believe is like probably should be the number one issue. And when, we had this Me Too movement in Hollywood that spread all over the place. And then those same Me Too people were pushing back that Hollywood has an incredibly awful pedophile problem.
Yeah.
How deep does it go, in your opinion? How does the dark arts infest all parts of the federal government? Is it a giant blackmailing scheme? Is Jeffrey Epstein the tip of a giant iceberg?
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of the problems we're having politically are because the people we're electing are puppets, and they're capable of being blackmailed, and they are being blackmailed. And in the 50s, it was very, very easy to blackmail people because you caught them cheating on their wife, you caught them cheating on their taxes, you went up to the bad guy who was in office and you would say, "If you don't do what I want, I'm going to let your little skeletons out of the closet." And it was easy to blackmail people. Nowadays, nobody cares if you cheat on your spouse or your taxes. They're like, "Oh, yeah, it's Newsom. He cheats on everybody." Like, you go up to some dirty politician, you're like, "I got evidence that you do an X, Y, or Z," and the politician's like, "So, that's all you got?"
Yeah, Al Franken must be so annoyed that he resigned. I mean,
yeah, right.
My God.
Yeah. So the only way that we can actually effectively blackmail somebody in today's world, if you ask me, is with a Hunter Biden laptop. If you're having sex with 7-year-olds, that's the only thing that will make average ma and pa kettle sitting on their couch in middle America go, "Oh, that's bad. I'm not going to vote for this guy," or "This guy should go to jail," or, whatever it might be. And so you have an epidemic. I mean, $150 billion a year industry, sex trafficking is, and human trafficking, second largest, fastest growing crime in the world, 40 million people that are currently enslaved. That's basically, for a frame of reference, every single person in California waking up handcuffed to a bed tomorrow, or being made to work in a mine until they die in Africa somewhere. It is a huge problem. And it's not just the pervy guy in the trench coat standing outside your kid's junior high school going, "Hey, little girl, come get in the panel van with me," that poses a threat. It is every man. We've all got one of these. So, it used to be that you had to have some stones on you if you wanted to go buy a 7-year-old or even a 17-year-old. You had to go to a bad part of town in your car, risk having your license plate seen or your neighbors seeing you, and you had to wait for some skeezy girl to come over, some hooker to offer you a price, and you had to pay her, and you had to, bang it out real quick in your car and worry about the cops busting you. And it was a very public, adrenalizing, scary thing for the average soccer dad to do. Now, with the advent of the internet, You just wait for your wife to go out of town to a Chicago, conference at her job. You order up Domino's pizza on your cell phone, and you go to Backpage or Pornhub or one of these, whatever the new one is, Craigslist, whatever, and you buy a girl, and they drive them to your house, and you send your kids packing to do a slumber party with the neighbors down the street, and nobody's the wiser that you bought a woman or a kid for sex. That's how easy it is to buy, as the buyer, to be involved in sex trafficking. And the relative ease with which it is done, and the fact that you don't have to have a brothel if you're the pimp anymore. You just get a Travelodge room or a Super 8 room for $30-$40 a night, and slam 8 or 10 girls in there and feed them a Happy Meal a day. Your overhead is like, zilch, right? Mm-hmm. You're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, if not millions, running these 8 girls 10 times a night for hundreds of dollars. That's a lot of money tax-free. You're not paying taxes on it. You're a criminal. It is a huge problem. And it is not just the pervy guys who, are wearing trench coats who are buying kids. It is your accountant. It is your scout leader. It is your priest, your pastor, your husband. It is middle-class American dads who are doing this stuff. And that includes your politicians. But the bad guys aren't idiots, and everything you do leaves an electronic footprint. And so once you're elected, all it takes is a George Soros type guy doing some little, PI work on you and going, oh, you like to buy girls for sex on your phone, and we now have you doing that. And he goes up to you and he goes, I'm going to make this public front page news, Hunter Biden laptop style, but I'll make damn sure the MSM actually carries the story, or you do what I want. And so when you look at all of these politicians who should be good guys, they're Republicans. They ran on a ticket that said no censorship and, you don't have to bow down to mandates. And you get them in office and then they're just sitting there not doing shit. And you're wondering why they're sitting there deaf, blind, mute, not doing jack. They're probably being blackmailed. And the only way to blackmail them is with a Hunter Biden laptop these days. So if you want to clean up politics, you have to clean up sex trafficking. Does it go all the way up in all of the governments I've worked with? Yeah, it does. I mean, it was day one in my Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force, and a guy came up and he goes, the Huntington Beach cop over there when they were doing the 2020 type sting together last week, ended up busting his brother, right? And I'm like, wow, the cops are busting their brothers in these stings. Like, oh my gosh. So yeah, your politicians are doing it. Look at Hunter Biden's laptop. Like, yeah. And Jeffrey Epstein, why do we not know who his client list was? Why does Heidi Fleiss's little black book, never see the real light of day? And when it does, it's not carried on primetime news, because the names in that book are all the power elite, and they're not going to let that happen if they can fix it to not.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm completely and utterly with you on that. There is a part of me that, I don't want anything bad to happen to children. But when I see on the right again, I wouldn't say I'm a conservative. I would say that I am a old school liberal, which is live and let live, and I believe in personal freedoms and all that stuff. I probably would say I'm more aligned with the Libertarian Party right now. It's like, keep your hands out off my guns. Let me worship what I want to worship. Right. But sometimes when I see the right, it's just like this pendulum swings back and forth. And the minute you think like, okay, the center is going to lean more right, then somebody on the right says some crazy stuff and it sends them the other way. And then the left says some and then we're just running back and forth and we never can come to agreement on anything. And for me, it's like, it fits into what you're saying is like, when I start to see the rights going off on a lot of this stuff, a lot of the social stuff, whether it's gay marriage and stuff like that. Personally, I think the government ruined marriage. I don't think it's certain people getting married. So, and that's just Sam's opinion. I want to pick and choose where I want to do, because I believe when you demonize any lifestyle, and we're not talking pedophilia, I don't think there's ever going to be a time where we come to understand, like, I think you hurt people and we should never, ever even, give an inch
Agreed.
to that. So I'm going to put that to the side. I'm completely against that stuff. I think those people are bad people. But when we talk about what adults doing with adults,
yep.
And sometimes when we start seeing the right get really angry at this stuff. Now, I'm also not talking about let's have like gay teachers telling the kids what they did on the way. I think that's gross. And I also think that I don't want to hear straight teachers saying the exact same thing. Like, so when I say keep the cultural Marxism out of schools, I'm not just saying one side, I'm saying both sides.
Both sides.
Nobody needs to hear what a straight teacher did at Dave and Buster's on the weekend with people. Okay. We don't need to hear any of that. All
just
right,
keep
so
your sex life out of the classroom.
Yeah,
no matter what you're doing with it. Yeah, I 100% agree.
When I was a kid, I thought my teachers were robots. When I saw them outside of school, I thought they escaped the robot factory. I couldn't believe they had real lives and they had, so I'm outside that. But, for me, it's like when we start demonize certain things that people do, I think you start setting up more blackmailing schemes for people to control their behavior.
I'm kind of with you. I get painted with this. Oh, Leigh Dundas is QAnon. I don't know where to find QAnon or the drops. I don't even know what it really is, other than what I've been told. People are like, oh, she's just radical right winger, but I'm like, dude, I was pretty liberal for a lot of my life. Like, I really want to save the whales and the trees. Like, I want my great grandchildren, God willing, to be able to see a redwood before they die. Now, that said, I have become a single party voter. I will vote with the party that will keep a needle out of my kid's arm, because that is a quick path to a genocide. And as much as I love the trees and the whales and the environment, and now, am I crazy? Do I want to be relying on other people's oil because we can't put a pipeline in? Like, I'm very central in my views. I'm a very logical person, but people are like, oh my gosh, she's so right wing, and I'm like, I have been forced more right than I ever was before, because the values that I deem important now are being ironically trumpeted. I was always a conservative, a fiscally conservative, and a registered Republican, but I'm kind of like you, libertarian. Like, just get the government out of my life and out of everybody else's life. Yes. Like I don't want me as a heterosexual woman in 4-inch heels and my drag queen stripper gear, which I don't even own anymore because I'm 50 now. I don't need to be doing drag queen story hour for the 3-year-olds in my hetero trappings any more than I want to see a tranny in his 4-inch heels doing drag queen story hour at the library. Like, just keep the sex out of the classrooms, out of the story hours. Yeah. And if you're a consenting adult, go do what you will behind closed doors. Just don't tell me about it. Like, I don't.
That's my whole opinion as well.
What you did. Now, if you're hurting a kid, if you're hurting animals, that's a totally different thing. That's a criminal act. That's illegal. People are not, or animals are not, whatever it is not consenting. That's my bright line sort of rule on
anyone not consenting. That's my problem. Consensual. Right. Get as weird as you want. Get consensual. As long as there's consensual and it doesn't involve me, I don't need to hear any of it. And that's always been my opinion. I'm not into the micromanaging, and I'm very anti government. The more and more I start to study government, the more and more I think they mess everything up. And I just do.
Ronald Reagan had it right. He said something like, when they show up at your doorstep and they say, I'm here from the government and I'm here to help you, like, run away. I'm slaughtering his quote, but the government is not your friend. And this country was built on modest government. I mean, if you think about what Patrick Henry, my ancestor, and a bunch of our other guys, founding fathers, were rebelling against, it was an overly intrusive English government in the form of taxation and a bunch of other stuff. And we wanted a government of the people, by the people, for the people, that kind of stayed the heck out of people's lives and let them do what they will in their marketplace, in their religion, in their free speech. I mean, just because I'm for free speech, I'm for free religion, doesn't mean I agree with everybody's speech and religion. I don't agree with the KKK, but I will go to the mat and fight till the end for their right to say that BS, because the alternative is worse. Censorship is worse. When you cannot speak freely as a minority opinion holder, your government is going to run roughshod over you and you will die eventually. That is just proven history across the world, from the far right to the far left, fascism to communism, down through the ages. But it's ironic, my friends, and I don't know if you saw this recently. It was the BLM leader from Rhode Island. Did you guys hear about this?
Yes.
Black Lives Matter leader stands behind J6 prisoners, endorsing Trump. Founder of BLM voicing his support for the J6ers and not shying away from endorsing Trump as the best candidate we have. Why? Why did he do it? He said, their lambs led to slaughter to be sacrificed as an example for all who might want to dissent in the future. This guy gets it. When you start saying, as a minority in our society, that you don't have a right to speak your mind, to vote, to practice whatever religion you deem to practice, that is dangerous territory. And so I don't agree necessarily with all of these different opinions, but like I said a second ago, I agree with people's right in America to hold these different opinions, because that is what makes our country great. And we need to all minimally agree on that. But what the crazy left is doing right now, I mean, this is not Bobby Kennedy's Democratic Party. His Democratic Party is what the new Republican Party is standing for more often than not. And the old Democrat Party has just been completely hijacked by communism. You know, I mean, it's just straight. It's not even Marxist socialist. It's just straight communism. They said,
like they were talking about, it's a death cult. It's a depopulation, Moloch worshiping, dark arts death cult.
Yep.
And you know, a great example of what you're talking about is how the pro-choice people turned on the pro-choice vaccine people.
I know.
And then when it came back around and they were discussing that debate on pro-choice versus pro-life, that's not really a discussion right here. But when that came, they had no leg to stand on because they completely sold out. And that's what they do. They get you to agree to something on something. Your enemy, to do something to your enemy. They get you to agree to do something to your enemy, not knowing that eventually it will come right back and get you.
Right. I mean, it's Martin Nieboer, you know, the Lutheran minister back in the Holocaust who penned the poem about I forget the title, but you know, first they came for the socialists, and I was not a socialist, so I did not stand up. And then they came for the trade unionists, and I was not a trade unionist, so I did not stand up. And then they came for the Jews, and I was not a Jew, so I did not stand up. And then they came for me, and there was no one left. And that is the fatal mistake that those on the left, currently on the left, are making, which is they're not understanding that, you know, you may want like all hell to censor you or me or a J6er or a Republican or you know, a pro-life guy or a pro-evangelical Christian guy. But censorship that gun of censorship, once you allow it to gain traction, will eventually swivel back around and backfire on you. And we're seeing the funny thing about Israel right now. I was talking to a friend of mine who, former partner in my old law firm back in the 90s, and he still talks to a girl who was my class. Actually, she was the class behind, who was a very feminist, Jewish, very far left gal. Feminist when she joined the law firm, and she still is, and she lives here in Orange County. And my friend, who's, you know, on the right, he's a Republican and he's a white male, he goes, yeah, I was talking to this girl the other day. I go, oh, you still talk to her? It's, you know, been 20 years since I talked to her. And he goes, yeah. And she said she basically has no friends because she's on the left and she's Jewish. And now we've got this Israeli-Palestine conflict, right? So all of her liberal friends that were there was this liberal base supporting her for decades, has now split.
Yeah.
And you've got the liberals are being hijacked by Hamas supporters.
Yeah.
And now she's in the minority, and she doesn't even have any liberal friends because she's a Jew. And and meanwhile, the like 5 Jewish people I know, right? The 5 Jewish people I know who are, you know, who've been awake to this, and they're like, why is Israel agreeing to the vaccine and 97% vaccinated? Don't they understand?
Oh, not only that, Netanyahu's like, give it to us, I'll give you the data.
Right? Because I can granularity with micro precision on a granular basis with the vaccine passport and all the systems I have in place with electronic medical systems in Israel. I can tell you exactly who's getting it and how they're dying and the injuries. And yeah, I wonder how his granulated reporting is going for him now. When did you just see that the Jewish poster boy, the 8-year-old who was their little Elmo, he died over the weekend, you know, Brazil boy died. Like, bit of a backfire here, but you know, it's splitting even the people who were hanging together briefly. And you know, what's the saying? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. War makes for strange bedfellows. And with the Israel thing taking off, on top of all the vaccine injury, on top of people who were anti-big tech even though they were liberal, and now the deep state surveillance is unrolling.
Yeah.
You've got people waking up in their little liberal corners and starting to swing to the right, like you're talking about.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then we got to check that the far right doesn't come in and run everybody the other way. And it's just like, it should just be common sense.
Balancing.
Live and let live.
Yeah.
And I wish, and we got a jam right here, but I wish people understood the tax system. I hate hearing people, oh, my tax dollars are going for it. No, your tax dollars are paying off the interest on the money that the Federal Reserve is printing to pay for all this. That's where your tax money is going. Your tax money, some of it goes to funds, but the majority of it just goes to pay off the interest on the trillions of dollars that are never meant to get paid off, ever.
Yeah, it's monopoly money at this point. And it's such a skewed system. I mean, whoever is next elected really needs to work on a number of things, not just election integrity, not just politician cleaning up who's allowed to actually run for office and making sure we're not electing straight up criminals, but also, handling sex trafficking, handling fiat currency, handling the IRS and the tax system, which is such a broken system at this point. And what people don't understand, I get it because I work in, Thailand and Cambodia, but money is paper. It only has the value we agree on. Yeah. And if we find ourselves in a FEMA camp, you'll be burning 20s and hundies, toot sweet, to keep your ass warm. Yeah. And you'll realize it has no value other than to start a fire to keep your friends and family warm at night. Yeah. And that is literally what happened in Serbia, Croatia in the 90s during their conflict. It's what happens every time there's a genocide, right? And we need to clean up our currency, and not by enacting digital currency. But I know you guys have been an awesome, I feel like I've been having a party more than an interview. This has been a great hour and change. Thanks for having me on, boys. But again, can I plug my book one more time in case people came in late?
And then come back and we'll talk money too.
Yeah, let's do it. I will do that. So it's called Just Stand Up, My Fight for Freedom, from the brothels of Asia to the streets of America. You can buy the book at LeighDundas.com. That is how my name is spelled.
All the links below.
Yeah.
All the links will be below for your book and your website and all that stuff. So please click that and help support Leigh.
And please buy the book, because I have fought for freedom for almost 4 years now for freaking free. I financed everything I did out of my own savings account, and I got news for you. It's on gas fumes right now. So if you like to see your favorite loudmouth freedom fighter in the fight, please buy my book. I'll take the extra 10 cents from the profit of it. Actually, just kidding. My mother-in-law printed it. So if you don't buy it on Amazon and you buy it from my website, I actually make a little bit of money because my mother-in-law did it at her cost. Boom. Yeah. And by the way, if you want to get a book printed, don't go to all the red pill publishers. They're giving bad deals out, a lot of them, to us red pill authors. Come talk to me, because my mother-in-law is 80 and she believes in God and country, and she'll do it at her cost and give you the rest of the money. So it helps to pay the bills, keep the lights on, and allow me to do things like, I don't know, convoys and getting rid of health officers and getting rid of Gavin Newsom and keeping him in his lane. So buy the book, be there, be square. Also, I have a new podcast coming up. Sign up at LeighDundas.com. So I can join the ranks of people like all my awesome hosts here, Sam and Johnny. And how do you say your name? Is that Zavi?
Xavier, actually. That's fine. Xavier.
Yes, awesome. All right. But you guys have been a great hosting platform. Thanks for having me tonight.
Leigh, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, if you get a chance, go check out chaostwins.com. Support our Indiegogo for our new comic book that is family friendly for children. Teach them about conspiracies, how the world works, and stay tuned for a little breakdown on our affiliate programs and some highlights from my other podcasts. Thank you guys so much, Leigh. Thanks again, and we will talk to you soon. Enjoy the highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim. So this is from Variety. So it's legit. It says, as you said, one person familiar with the Blade script, changes they've made to the script, says the story at one point morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons, with Mahershala Ali's Blade relegated to the 4th lead in the movie. That's what Blade was at one point, the new Blade movie that they're working on.
Can you believe that?
Absolutely, I can.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, of course.
And it's like, okay, so let's get this right. Nobody's making money. Everything's bottoming out. You were on a strike. They basically told you they want you to get rid of all the woke stuff. And the first thing you go back to is, let's change the story. That's why I love Godzilla movies.
Well, now my question though, Sam, from that tweet is, now it sounds like they're making changes to the script though. Was this the original script and then they're changing it? You get what I'm saying? Because it says one person familiar with the script changes said at one point it had morphed into a narrative led by women, but maybe they've changed it from that. That's what I'm hoping. I haven't read the story yet. This past September, a group of Marvel creatives, including studio chief Kevin Feige, assembled in Palm Springs for the studio's annual retreat. Most years, the vibe would have been confident, even cocky, given how the premier superhero brand owned by Disney since 2019 has remade the entertainment business in its image. But this occasion was angst-ridden. Everyone at Marvel was reeling from a series of disappointments on screen, a legal scandal, and a bunch of other shit. The most pressing issue to be discussed at the retreat was what to do about Jonathan Majors, of course.
Who got screwed.
Yeah, and they had
who got completely utterly screwed. And I want to get into some stuff about
great,
that.
He's great in the new Loki. He's been really good. At the gathering in Palm Springs, the executives discussed backup plans, including pivoting to another comic book adversary like Doctor Doom, but making any shift would carry its own headache. Majors was already a big presence in the MCU, including as the scene-stealing antagonist in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and he's also been positioned as the franchise's next big thing in the new season of Loki. Marvel is truly fucked with the whole Kang angle, says one top deal maker who's seen the final Loki episode.
They're not fucked.
And
the problem is they don't have any balls to go, oh, nothing happened. Let's proceed with the plan that we had before this fake shit happened.
Stand by the guy, yeah.
It's just unbelievable. There's nobody that will go. There's not one person that goes, I'm not going to see that movie because of those fake allegations that turned out not to be true.
Here's what this guy says, though. He says he doesn't see any way they move forward with him. That's what the guy says.
That to me is just disgusting. And she's not even going to go to jail.
And you have this, have you seen the trailers for the new Marvels thing? I mean, it just looks terrible. It's just all these women like beating the shit out of everybody.
And like awful, nobody wants it.
It's based on that. The one of the main three is that show that nobody watched, everybody hated, about the little Indian girl, you know, like Miss Marvel or whatever.
Yeah.
It was awful. Even me, my girl couldn't even watch it. And she kind of, like would prefer like a sort of a softened like superhero thing. And she was like, this is terrible.
Yeah, because you're not, Johnny, it's what I was telling you about the all-female Jedi show. It's just like, you have to suspend all your beliefs in anything to believe this already unbelievable scenario. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely, yeah. And to make it even more so is ridiculous.
So you have to, we're going to suspend that people could travel through space, do all that stuff, move stuff, Jedi shit. We're going to suspend that belief and buy into that. Now you want me to believe that 90-pound women can beat the shit out of every guy out there. It's like, it's too much. It's too much.
They don't even get, I'm trying to wait for, the story has gotten this far and they haven't even mentioned the damn Blade thing. Hold on just a second. Okay.
Oh, there it is.
As public criticism mounts, Feige is pulling the plug on scripts and projects that aren't working. Case in point, the Blade reboot. With Mahershala Ali signed on for the eponymous role of a vampire, things looked promising for a 2023 release date, but the project has gone through at least 5 writers, 2 directors, and 1 shutdown 6 weeks before production. One person familiar with the script permutations says the story at one point morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. Blade was relegated to the 4th lead, a bizarre idea considering that the studio had 2-time Oscar winner Mahershala Ali on board. Amid reports that Ali was ready to exit over script issues, Feige went back to the drawing board and hired Michael Green, the Oscar-nominated writer of Logan. Oh, what a great idea, to start anew. Speculation around town is that the studio is looking to make the film now slated for 2025. So they got a real writer in there. Somebody will take it seriously and do a good job, it sounds like. Can you believe they were getting ready to make that fucking movie?
Yeah.
With just can you imagine like guys like us who love the original Blade? No women saw Blade, the original Blade. None of the people that are going to support that movie are women. And can you imagine going in there and it's just like, wait, what?
Now, just Blade? Like and we've done some women bashing. We hate doing it. But we are guys and we see stupid.
This is Marvel.
But just for the ladies to get a reference of what this would be like, it would be if they made Sex in the City with all trans.
Yeah.
right? And they're just like 4 trans living the best life in Malibu, not even in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Malibu, the best life. And the people who like that, which are now women who are in their late 30s, 40s, they're gonna love the transfer. It like doesn't work.
Yeah, and Sarah Jessica Parker like shows up to bring like a
just with a strap on,
a bun cake over or something, and that's her role.
Yeah,
in the whole thing.
like isn't that crazy? It's
That
just
is crazy. Yeah, that is crazy. Now you wanted to bring up South Park as
real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
So I don't know if you saw this, but so I want to get into some Matthew Perry stuff.
Oh, okay.
But Matthew Perry passed. Rest in peace. As a drug addict, I feel for you. I don't know the story. Everyone's got a theory. Okay. And I want to talk about his tweets and his Instagram. But so, as you know, some comedians will say things at what is believed at awkward moments and inappropriate times, and it blows up somehow, right?
Are you talking about Ari Shaffir?
Well, we have Ari, but now we're talking about Kevin Brennan. Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about a couple things you can find on the website, SamTripoli.com. It's everything you need, audio, video, all there of all my podcasts across the board. You can also get my dates there. You can also get t-shirts there. We are adding t-shirts all the time. We just added a more de-essing, less bombing. I love that one, okay? We also got Yahweh or the Highway new shirts are there. They should be up. It's a great way to support the show. Grab your t-shirts now. I got more magic coming. I also have a mental gymnastics one everyone's going to really like. Listen, if you want to support the show, rockfin.com, $15. You get all my shows across all the boards. We also have Cash Daddies, patreon.com/Cash Daddies. Great way to make money in these difficult markets. We also have some affiliates. I'm going to hit them out real quick. If you're looking for gold and silver, a great way to go to Wise Wolf. Click the banner. Hydrogen brown gas. Everyone loves it. Harley Ray, our good friends, and Candles and Crystals. You can use the promo code SWARM15. Click that one. And Tim James, who was just on the show, universally loved. You can get a discount on all of his stuff on his website. Chemical Free Body. And then finally, Joel Staley, who's going to help me lose weight and get ready to rock. All those there. Click the banners. Support them. Support us. It's a great way. And all my audio, all my video, again, right there at SamTripoli.com. Enjoy the highlights.
And now, a highlight from Cash Daddies. Jeff Bezos is moving to Miami, by the way. Did you see this? He claims it's because he wants to be closer to his family, but I think we all know why he's moving to Miami, because it's a tax shelter. And
he's a billionaire, and he wants to hang out with hot chicks. Why would you stay in Washington?
Yeah.
Why would you stay there? It's like, oh, dude, I can hang out with earthy granola bitches who all look like they still listen to grunge, or I can go hang out to English as a second language Latinas who have way less expectations and know how to cook. Where am I going?
He said he's going to be moving Blue Origin to more and more to Cape Canaveral.
Florida. Yeah. Because all these people who push this woke shit realize woke sucks. That's why we have to surround them with a wall and keep them in their area until they figure out the shit they cause. Like, no one should ever be allowed to leave San Francisco if you live there until you figure it the fuck out.
Well, you have to show us how you voted. We have to see your voting history. If you voted.
I totally agree. We need your voting record. Okay.
That would be. Can you imagine just having shown your voting record to get out of California? I'd be down for that.
Oh yeah, stay here. You suck.
I like Bezos. Bezos works out. Bezos came from nothing. He busted his ass. Is he a capitalist pig? Yeah, 100%. But he likes hot ass. He likes big boats, and I gotta respect him.
Yeah, he's come a long way, dude. When you look at those original videos of him like doing that office tour, where just the biggest nerd. And he's like
let's not even talk about the fact that his grandpa started DARPA, but let's keep moving on. Hardest working guy.
I was waiting. I was waiting for that. He
started with nothing, man. His mom,
listen, Howie, I love you to pieces. I can't express to you enough how my heart cup runneth over with love with you. Okay.
Yeah, well, you can't just make shit up.
Hey. Do not say Jeff Bezos started with nothing, because it's not true. His
started-
grandfather owned Mobile Oil and he started DARPA, okay? That's a fact. These are facts you don't hear in upstate New York education systems, okay?
I don't even know if I believe it. I don't even know if I believe it. All I know is this dude lived with his mother. He lived with his mom.
In a 90-bedroom house. And, dude, he chose to live in the garage. This is, dude, stop. Jeff Bezos is not a rags to riches story. This guy, I guarantee you, and it's not been, I guarantee you, DARPA created a system for Amazon, and he beta tested it on books because he knows no one gives a fuck about books. And once they worked out all the kinks on the books, then they came out and they just dominated everything. That's how it is. And I try to buy shit in person. That's what I really try to do. But half these people don't have anything, so I have to go on Amazon and buy this shit. It drives me nuts. I'm trying to keep mom and pop stores open.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. But I'm just saying individually, that dude, he figured it out, man. He figured it out. Speaking of figuring it out, how about the most respectful guy in the world, Billy Gates is starting a new startup in of all the fresh places in the world where you're going to get good solid labor, the Congo.
What?
Bill Gates is starting a company in the Congo because
I feel so bad for these people.
He cares about the children. He cares about the children.
Yeah, he likes touching them.
But he is starting a company.
This is the most fucked up episode.
I
want to apologize.
It's the best episode we've ever had.
I want to apologize to Sam. I want to apologize to everybody listening. I'm sorry. I'm having a bad day. Okay.
It's okay, buddy. I love you.
Yeah, he's right here.
I love you. I love you too, buddy.
Hey, Johnny, just know no matter how bad you do, Howie will always outdo you. So don't worry about it. That's the best part. Okay. Howie will always have a nice retard take. Howie is a idiot savant, heavy on the idiot, on stocks and bets. Okay?
Heavy on the savant too, honestly.
Heavy on the savant. He crushes it.
That's right, baby. Yeah, but Bill Gates is starting a mining company. He's starting a startup mining company.
Oh, really?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, which who's in charge of that? I don't know. You got to have at least 10,000 kids between the ages of 6 and 10 who are willing to get right in those ditches and dig. And Bill Gates, back mining startup, wants to expand into the Congo.
Oh, Bezos is in that too, apparently. That mining company. Let's see. Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos are backing this $1 billion mining company that uses AI to find rare earth metals.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
It is so hilarious to me